Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glen Guilbeau.
You're real players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. We're inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studio, along with our great producer, Jackson Blackman. Since Glen Guilbeau's going into the Hall of Fame, he just big-timed us tonight. It just...
he acts like it's okay for him to miss flights and things like that. Actually, it's not his fault at all. Apparently, there's some
traveling commercially is not fun.
What's going? Yeah, but I mean, it's like worse lately than it's ever been. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but
Omaha's sometimes not an easy place to get home from, and so Glenn is finding that out, unfortunately today. But
so I booked his tickets, so
I'm
getting all the emails.
Oh man,
there were 7 delays today.
Wow. And he's still there. No, well, he's supposed to.
He's actually in the air, I think, right now.
All right. He might be listening to us.
I doubt it.
I don't think so. Probably not. Well, a great show lined up here later on tonight. We're going to talk with Jay Johnson and Nate Yeske. We're going to go back to back. It's like Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson, right? It's a 1-2 punch. Later on in the hour. Glen West will also join us from 247 Sports. But let's get to our first guest of the night. He joins us on the Max Home Hotline. He's a national champion himself, also a 2-time World Series champion. Ryan Theriot joins us on the Max Home Hotline. Ryan, thanks a lot for spending some time with us on Tiger Rag Radio. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Jeff. Jackson, how you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing well. Yeah, it's great to have you on. First question for you. What impresses you the most, or what has impressed you the most about this 2025 team, and maybe some characteristics of this team that maybe stick out more so than the 7 previous champions?
I mean, I think first and foremost, it was talked about quite a bit during the broadcast, and been a point of discussion throughout the season is the defense and how well these guys caught the ball. Jay Johnson is an infield guy. He's a defensive guy. It's one of his main focuses, and he's a middle infielder when he was playing. And so, man, they caught the balls they were supposed to catch. They made some amazing plays as well. The Tiger teams of the past, man, it was the 2 and 3 run homer that the gorilla ball that everybody was talking about. These guys didn't give away free passes, and they caught the baseball.
Hey, Ryan, this is Todd Horne. Were there any characteristics that you specifically related to within the makeup and the character of this team as it related to you guys in 2000?
Todd, I've spent a lot of time with a couple of these fellas, and was able to get to know them on a personal level. And I think that, the big moments that Stephen Milam had and has had throughout the course of his career thus far, extremely relatable, not only to myself, but also Tigers of the past that have been on championship teams. It was never too big for him, and not just him. I mean, there were multiple guys. Obviously, Jared Jones had some huge hits, and Hernandez had some huge hits. I mean, but Milam in particular, I actually made this comment to Bill Daly, one of my former coaches, earlier today when we were talking about the games and the season. I said, he could have played with us. He could have played on one of our teams. Just the way he approaches the game and his intensity and he just always looks pissed off, which I love. He's never smiling and celebrating. He wants to eat your face off. And so I'm like, man, he can play with me.
Do you think, especially against Arkansas, where they had Golden Boy Vahiavaloa, I can't even say his name, but I think you know who I'm talking about. Their shortstop, who actually won the Golden Spikes Award, and he was actually very good. But do you think Milam had a little chip on his shoulder going head-to-head against him, especially in the World Series?
No, I don't think he likes anybody. I mean, I don't think it was personal. I mean, as a matter of fact, I know he doesn't. It didn't have anything to do with him. Look, I remember when UCLA came to Baton Rouge for the regional super, I think it was my sophomore year when we won the World Series, and they had a guy by the name of Chase Utley, who's not a bad ball player.
Right.
And Chase, had a pretty bad few games, and we had a guy by the name of Mike Fontenot who had a couple of really good games, and so I just, putting on that uniform, playing for the letters on the front rather than the ones on the back is pretty cliche statement. I get it, but man, there's just something different about the atmosphere and the culture. And, when that game starts, you're playing for something more than yourself, and not taking anything away from the kid from Arkansas. I think he's a spectacular player. He's going to have a wonderful big league career. No doubt about it. But in a fist fight, I'm taking Milam all day long.
Even though he's probably about 5 inches shorter or more.
Yeah, he's winning that one, buddy. I promise you.
Well, while we're talking about Arkansas and Aloy, and since you were a shortstop and you know how to play the position, and you talked about how good LSU's defense was, Arkansas's defense was actually had performed slightly better than LSU in terms of statistically all season long. And so it was kind of surprising to see him make that play in the ninth inning where he could have looked like a pretty easy double play against Milam, and instead went to third. What did you think when you saw that?
The most important part of turning a double play is the first step. It's the first action toward the baseball. You're having to catch it, throw it to one base, and redirect it to another base. And so everything is sped up a bit on a double play. I know I'm stating the obvious. But he did it earlier in the game where he kind of sat back on one, and I think Pearson ended up beating it out on a double play ball. And that was the exact same situation where his first step wasn't aggressive to the ball. And at that point, now your rhythm's thrown off. Okay, and so whether he turned it or not, now obviously I think he probably would have. Milam is not the fastest. But you couple that with the base runner flashing right in front of you, it can create some confusion there. And late in the ball game, what you're doing is counting down outs. At that point, I think Arkansas needed 8 more outs to win that game. And so you're just counting down outs. And so he's just trying to get an out. And he did. Fortunately for us, we ended up winning the game because of that. But, Daniel Dickinson did the same thing an inning before that, where he had the opportunity to turn a double play. And instead of doing it the proper way, he just said, let me just get an out. And I don't know if you guys remember, it was the most awkward feed to second base I've ever seen in my life. But that was because he wasn't concerned about turning a double play. He just wanted to get an out. And, it didn't hurt LSU, but boy, it really hurt Arkansas.
Yeah, it certainly did. What did you make out of what happened in the first inning of the second game of the championship series, Ryan, with Coastal Carolina's coach getting ejected? What did you see out of that? I'm sure you've been witnesses. Heck, you've played for Lou Piniella, so you get an idea of what it's like to see a head coach or manager get fired. So give us a take on what you saw there.
Get fired or get kicked out?
Get kicked out, yeah.
Yeah, same. It's the same thing. Listen, Lou is, notorious, right? And I'm glad you referenced Lou. Lou also knew when to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And he also understood the situation and when you can do things and when you can't. And I get it. There's part of of this argument says, well, the umpire's got to know the situation and understand it's a national championship game and it's the first inning and you just can't throw a guy out there or throw a guy out in that situation. And look, I totally disagree. And, you know, I know it's probably not popular, but the coach just has to know better. He can't put himself in a position to where he might get ejected. And this is coming from a guy that's been ejected a lot. Like, I've done that before, you know. But in the first inning of the national championship game, when you're outmanned already and your team needs you, you have to display some restraint. You have to understand the situation. And going back and watching the video, he had every opportunity in the world to turn around and walk back to the dugout, but instead he poked his chest out and aggressively made motions toward the umpire. Well, look, that umpire is a human being. Oh, and by the way, he's the authority on that field. You can't do that. There's ways to argue. There's ways to get your point across without putting yourself in danger of being ejected. And he didn't do that. And look, what got me the most was the next day when I watched his press conference, just the arrogance, you know, blaming it on somebody else. No, dude, own it.
Own it.
Now, I don't think your team would have won anyway. But the proper thing is to say, you know what, I screwed up. I got to be better. I have to show a better example for my kids. I have to show restraint. Yeah, the umpire, I didn't understand or didn't agree with his calls. And, you know, but I got to be better. Nobody's perfect. And look, guys, I don't even think the balls and strikes were that bad. I'm going to be honest with you. One of them was maybe borderline, but it's the first inning.
Yeah.
Your guy might get that call too.
Right. Well, and Ryan, it's interesting you bring up, you know, that he should have held him, showed some restraint, considered his players, because the day before when Dickinson had that controversial reviewed hit by pitch that was against LSU, and Jay was a little upset about it, almost stepped out of the dugout, was told to go back in because you can't argue against a reviewed call. And he just collected his thoughts and considered his team and acted responsibly, and everything was fine. So it is a stark contrast. But I have another question. You mentioned Bill Daly earlier, your coach. If I'm not mistaken, he was your third base coach in the Stanford game whenever you scored the winning run. When you scored that run in the 2000 World Series against Stanford, and I know you've talked about this before. I know it's in Glenn Guilbeau's book on Skip Bertman. You threw your helmet up in the air, mimicking almost exactly the same. I think it was Armando Rios who had done it before.
It was.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Jones in the walk-off against Arkansas did the same thing that Tommy White did against Wake Forest, giving the airplane motion going down first base. Do you think he was doing that consciously or subconsciously? And did you do it consciously or subconsciously?
Mine was 1,000,000% subconsciously. Like that was, you know, that just happened. And at LSU, we are blessed. I'm talking, I cannot overstate this. We are blessed with video of former Tiger greats doing really cool stuff. And Skip Bertman and Jay Johnson have the wherewithal and the smarts to know that showing those videos to current players is going to reinforce some positive thoughts. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm almost certain that Jared Jones has seen that in person, but also on video of Tommy White rounding third base, you know, on the walk-off. Mm-hmm. Just like I saw Armando hundreds of times, you know, Skip would make us watch these videos and visualize success. And knowing how close Jay and Skip are, I know he's taking a page out of Skip's book and just reinforcing that success and showing victory and showing, you know, and it just happens, man. I can't speak for Jones, whether it was conscious or subconscious, but I can tell you for me, I'd seen that clip so much. It just happened.
It just happened. So true or false, Ryan, Jay Johnson is the best possible coach to take over the dynasty that Skip Bertman started when you were there.
Um, I think before it's all said and done, Jay's going to win as many or more championships than Skip. I do.
That's a bold statement.
I think he's the best coach in the country by far. I think this core group that he has right now, when I say core, you've got some freshmen that are really, really, really good. You've got some juniors coming back next year. Maybe we can convince a few of the older guys to stay one more year. We'll see what that NIL looks like. So I need to all my rich friends to tap in and get these boys back. But no, listen, he's guys. I don't know how much time y'all have spent with him, but I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time with him. We are very, very, very fortunate to have Jay Johnson here in Baton Rouge. And, not only for what we just saw from a championship standpoint and bringing victories back here, but the kids that he's producing and putting out there are wonderful human beings. Just a lot of, it's very similar to what Skip was throwing out there. And he represents Baton Rouge and Louisiana and LSU the way that you want a leader to represent, your state. And I think we're just really fortunate to have him.
Last question here for you, Ryan. A little bit outside of baseball, outside the box. I know you're a busy guy. You got terrific daughters who are great athletes, but you got another thing added to your agenda here. You've been named to the LSU Presidential Selection Committee.
You're damn right.
How excited are you about that? How did you get involved in that? And what are we looking for as far as a new president at LSU?
Well, I'm going to try to get Trump. We'll see what happens. But, I'm shooting for the stars, boys. I told him that. I said, listen, y'all bring the riot onto this thing now. We're not settling. We're going to get the big one. No, but look, I'm just to have the honor to serve on that committee is awesome. I've been going to games and going to that university and wearing the purple and gold literally my entire life, and was fortunate enough to be able to continue my education there and also, win a championship for Baton Rouge. I have two children that are going to be there and a third, in 2 years. To be a part of this search, not only, on the athletic side, but to help shape this university, both academically as well as athletically is a true honor. The room of individuals that I'll be sitting in, is just, I'm blown away. And I can tell you, I'm going to soak it up, and I'm going to just shut my mouth, and I'm going to listen and learn, and hopefully it's a catapult of other things to come. But I'm excited about the process, and going to do the very best I can for the university, and we'll get the best person for the job.
Well said. Hey, Ryan, let's do this again in the future here. I know you're a busy man. Thanks a lot. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your summer. I love watching your daughters play soccer and run track and all that kind of stuff. They're terrific athletes, so it's great to talk with you, and good luck with the search for a new president. And if you need Trump's number, I think Glen Guilbeau has it.
Yeah, right.
That's right. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Right,
thanks, Ryan.
All right. Ryan Theriot joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio. We went way long with him, but it was well worth it. So let's take a break and come back. This is Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Trax.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
All right, we only got a couple minutes in this next segment, and then it's back to the phone lines on the Max Home Hotline. LSU baseball coach, two-time national champion Coach Jay Johnson will join us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo and Todd Horne with you here for this show. Glen Guilbeau still trying to find his way back from Omaha to Baton Rouge. But, Todd, since we had Ryan Theriot on in the opening segment, we never got a chance to give our reflections of the championship, the College World Series. If you could, I guess in a minute or so, kind of give me your thoughts on this team winning a second championship in 3 years.
Well, I would say go to YouTube, pull up the preview podcast, and it happened exactly the way I said it was going to happen.
Did you have them beating Coastal Carolina?
I had them.
You had them beating Arizona.
I'm talking about the finals one that we did. No, yeah, but the finals when we did, I said they were going to win it 2-0, and I said it was going to be because of pitching. And, I also said in the earlier podcast that LSU wasn't going to score 6 runs a game. You also said they weren't going to score 6 runs a game. 6 runs a game was their magic number during the season where they were 41-1.
Right.
When they scored 6 runs or more, they didn't average nearly 6 runs a game, yet they are the champions. And by far the best team, I think, in the country this year. And that's another question I want to ask Jay. Does he think they were the best team, or does he think they were the team playing the best, which is always a narrative in the World Series?
I think what was so impressive, and maybe this could be the first question we get to ask Jay, and we only got a short amount of time, how fast this team came together. And he's alluded to it several times in the post-game press conferences during the tournament that they had, following the 2024 season, just 12 players coming back.
Right.
And to put this, and that was one of my concerns going into the year, is how does this team find a togetherness so quickly? And they were able to do that. I think a part of it is a lot of them have the same kind of makeup as far as and mentality. They're just baseball nerds, for the lack of a better term, right? They just want to go out there and play baseball. And they all have that common bond, and I think that helped them become a cohesion group. We'll be back after this here on Tiger Rag Radio.
June is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Take part in the Summer Reading Challenge with incentives for kids, teens, and adults. They also have events galore for all ages, like Movies on the Plaza, the Cool Careers Summer Series, and so much more. Check out details online at ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
All right, we're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine. That is Todd Horne. Glen Guilbeau still trying to make his way back from Omaha, Nebraska. We are efforting LSU baseball coach Jay Johnson, but he's a busy man. A lot of Zoom calls. Not only has he got to wrap up as far as, there's just a lot to do right now. And so we're still hoping to get Jay, if he's available, we'll certainly talk to him, but just a lot to do right now at the moment, Todd.
Yeah. And, we have Nate Yeske scheduled for the second half of this half hour.
Yeah.
And we may run into the same situation because they may be teaming up on calls. And,
right.
And they are. They're talking to players that they're targeting very selectively in the transfer portal right now. And we know for a fact that's what they're doing. And they fit us in very, very graciously. And hopefully we'll get to talk to them. But if not, we will catch up with them another time. What I did want to talk to Jay about right now, in addition to getting his thoughts on just winning so much so quickly, and his, we've heard it. Everybody's heard what he thinks about how proud he is of the team.
No, keep going, Todd.
Yeah, how proud he is of the team. And I'm sure he would have talked a little bit about that. But I really wanted to talk to him about, is Ethan Fry going to come back? Does he – and not just a simple question, is Ethan Fry going to come back? Tell us. Because he probably doesn't even know right now. Ethan Fry was a breakout player this year, obviously, designated hitter. But he's out of leverageability. And what I mean by that is he's got to make a decision of whether to test the market for the draft, go to the draft, and he can't back out of it and come back and have something to hold over the heads in terms of negotiating power, because he doesn't have another year after that. So that's a big question. So the answer to that comes in is how much more could they develop him by maybe putting him in the field, either in the outfield or at first base, and could they compensate him enough NIL wise to make him do that and make it a strong play for him? And that's one of the things I wanted to ask him about.
All right, we do have Jay Johnson
There he
joining
is.
us on the Max Home Hotline. Coach Johnson, thanks a lot for spending just a few minutes with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, and I apologize for being a few minutes late.
I understand. A lot going on at this moment. So rapid fire questions here, Coach, since we don't have you on for that very long. How did this team come together so quick? And I know that's not an easy question to answer in just a short amount of time, but I think that's what impresses me the most. You alluded to it several times, the fact that you only had 12 guys returning from the 2024 team. What was it? Was there a moment or something that you noticed, hey, this team's coming together a lot faster than I thought?
Yeah, well, the first off of those 12 returning players, they were the right guys. Like, all of them provided baseball value for this team, and they were worthy of being players and frontline players at LSU. So I give them a lot of credit. I give them a lot of credit for using their experience from 2024 very well. That was the foundation, the starting point. I think we had an exceptional class of high school freshmen. Obviously, Derek, Kaysen were kind of the headliners, but a lot of those guys contributed. You know, Cade Arambidi was really good in the middle of the season when we started playing him in the Saturday games and SEC play. William Schmidt won 7 games as a freshman. We used John Pearson in big pinch hitting situations. Maverick Rizzi, I think, led our team in appearances. So that was a really special group. And Cooper Williams, obviously, huge outing in the Super Regional against West Virginia. So that group was really special. And then the transfer portal thing, man, like, maybe they weren't quite as big of names, but we hit on the exact right fits for our team and the exact right people. I can't even quantify what those guys mean to me and our team this year. And all that collection of talent, they made a decision. They were going to place the needs of the team above their own and got after it every single day.
Jay, I know that you guys are, it's only been 3 days, and your big celebration is tomorrow night in Alex Box, and I'm sure you are all looking forward to that. But I also know that you've been very selectively working the transfer portal right now, and you're talking to the players that you've targeted and having Zoom calls with them, et cetera, and visits with them. But you've talked about you're going to be more selective with that transfer portal than you have in the past because you want certain players, specific players that would fit in and plug into the core that you already have. How important is it going to be to try and get somebody like an Ethan Fry back?
Well, first off, it's not just one of my favorite players. It's one of my favorite human beings I've ever coached. And he means a lot to me personally. I'm really proud of his development and persevering through not playing a lot as a freshman just because he was on such an exceptional team. And then last year, right when I was about to plug and say, hey, go big boy, you're the guy, he got hurt in that very game that we made a decision to do that. And so that limited his opportunities. And once we got him in there full time this year, he was a great player. I really would love to. I mean, Ethan can live in my house if he wants to come back next year, and I'll move into the apartments or dorms. Like, that's how much I think of Ethan, and I'm proud of him. And we'll see what happens. I think he's a great player. Wouldn't surprise me if he went high in the draft, but if he doesn't, I would love to have him. I think he could win the Golden Spikes Award next year if he came back.
Are all of your starting pitchers probably for next year on the team currently?
I think they absolutely can be, for sure. We are, obviously we need a little more depth than we have, but the foundation of what we have is really, really good. And it kind of reminds me of after we won in 23, a lot of those guys, did contribute in Omaha, and it was a little different script this time because Cade basically took 2 games and crossed them off, and we only played 5 instead of 8. But when you think about Kason Evans, Cooper Williams, Maverick Rizzi, William Schmidt, that's 4 really good freshmen. I'm hopeful, that Gavin Guidry can become healthy again. I really like Zach Cowan. He's at draft eligible, but we'll see what happens. Jaden Newt, I'm really excited. Connor Ware, I think, can get healthy and really be a positive contributor. DJ Primo. There's even guys like Grant Fontenot who didn't pitch in the postseason, but his last few outings were really good. Connor Benj. So there's a good core there. And I think if we add 2 or 3 guys, and we'll see what happens with our high school class in the draft, it's pretty talented. So, but there's a couple guys there too. So I think we have the makings of another really good pitching staff.
And it also looks like you're going to be pretty crowded in the outfield again next season. But you were able to handle it this year. I guess just what's your thoughts as you think about it right now? Because I know you're already kind of thinking about 2026.
Yeah. Well, I think a couple things, like, the draft is the draft, and, we'll see what happens relative to guys. I think Chris Stanfield is probably going to go pro. I think he's earned that opportunity by how he played this year. I would draft Ethan Fry, but we'll see what happens with him. But, you like your starting point with Derek Curiel, Jake Brown, Ashton Larson. I haven't met with all the players yet, but that's a great starting point for next year with those 3.
Certainly is. Congratulations, Coach Johnson. You've made a lot of people in Baton Rouge and the state of Louisiana happy, and looks like LSU once again back at the top of the mountain here for college baseball, and a lot of people saying, hey, this is a new era, a new golden era of LSU baseball. So
you've rebooted the dynasty.
I said that's what we were going to try to do, and we're off to a pretty good start, I think. So we'll keep working at it.
All right, sir. Thanks a lot, Coach. We appreciate it. Have fun tomorrow night.
You guys have a good night.
All right, Nate Yeske when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
All right, back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Our producer Jackson Blackman, So what did you do today? I was trying to call LSU baseball coaches. Not an easy job to get a hold of them right away.
I'm telling you, they're hopping from Zoom call to Zoom call.
But some good stuff there from Jay Johnson, and we'll dive into it a little bit more coming up later on in the 7:00 hour when we got a free segment here. But I don't want to dive into it now in case we do get Nate Yeske to join us here. So maybe hold off on some of the thoughts that I have is based on some of the things. Heck, we had him on for 7 minutes, and a lot of people have been asking him about this team and this, and I know my opening question was about that, but it's hard not to, as someone that covers the team or fans out there, hey, they won it this year. Why can't they, how does it look for next year? And how is it all going to fit again?
Well, and it's not our fault that the timing, the way it's set up. When Jay was in Omaha this year, he was talking about the disadvantage it is to be in Omaha.
Yeah.
Because the other teams are actively pursuing players in the transfer portal.
Right.
And he talked about losing Ryan Snead to Tennessee in 2023 for that very reason.
Yeah, right.
So the good thing is Jay knows exactly who he wants to go after.
The holes are not as big as they were.
The foundation's a lot stronger.
And the same with 2024. But he's I don't mean to interrupt, but the thing that he hit on, I think, is so accurate about how this team came together is the guys that he got out of the transfer portal. I know not all of them panned out, but it was about as good as you can expect, right? Daniel Dickinson lived up to everything you wanted. Anthony Einson, everything you wanted and more. Luis Hernandez, everything you wanted and more. Chris Stanfield was better than I think anybody thought was going to be. I mean, it just I don't want to say again across the board because the Dorsey kid from South Florida, I thought he was going to be an impact pitcher, and it just didn't turn out for him. But that was one guy. All these other guys, though, it just panned out, and it was amazing how it all came together. I mean, you go back to 2024, and hey, these kids are college kids. So I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but it is what it is. The fact that Paxton Kling couldn't be your everyday center fielder and bat leadoff, and the fact that Thatcher Hurd struggled as mightily as he did, it disrupted the whole season because they spent all of 2024 trying to find a center fielder, trying to find a leadoff guy, and Thatcher Hurd left them with a big gaping hole in their weekend rotation. What if Anthony Ianson came here and struggled as mightily as Thatcher Hurd?
Well, and that's a risk. Kendall Rogers, who we've had on the show many times from D1 Baseball, was talking on their podcast earlier this week, and he was talking about how whenever D1Baseball.com ranked LSU like third or fourth in the preseason, and he actually had a conversation with Jay, and Jay's like, hey, maybe you got us a little too high there. I'm not sure how these guys are going to pan out, But it, like you said, it did.
I mean, he hit blackjack on a lot of these guys, man.
Yeah, and I didn't get to ask him what I wanted to ask him. I wanted to ask him, were they the best team in the country, or were they just the team playing the best in the College World Series?
What do you think of this? And I mean, I wrote about it too. I think, and we heard from Ryan Theriot, this is the relaunch of another golden era. I mean, Ryan Theriot made some pretty strong comments there about him potentially surpassing Skip Bertman's 5 national championships.
I mean, this is not a political statement, but I hope Trump's not the president of LSU.
I didn't ask you about that. I asked you whether you think Jay Johnson's going to win more.
I do. I absolutely do. I agree with Ryan. In all seriousness, I agree with Ryan that he's got this program. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a maniacal worker.
It's Nick Saban-esque.
Yeah. And in fact,
and we all saw what Saban did at Alabama.
Yeah, in fact, Glenn wrote an article last week while he was in Omaha, and I think we're going to run a version of it in the upcoming issue of Tiger Rag, which will be out next week. That covers the entire World Series, actually the entire NCAA tournament, starting at the super regional level.
Yeah.
Where he compared Jay Johnson to Nick Saban, and Skip Bertman to Bear Bryant.
Yeah. Is that your phone? That's your phone. Is that Nate Yeskie? Or are you getting a call out of the bullpen?
It's not Nate. It's Ryan. No, I'm just kidding. Kick rocks. Nah.
Well, I think, and you were joking. Well, I don't think you were joking with me when you texted, because I had Jay lower on my ranking of SEC coaches. I had several of them up. And
this is an ongoing discussion back to last year. Actually, it was even 2 years ago. I think
maybe so. That 2023 team was so star-studded, and it was a lot of veteran guys. I am just so impressed on how this all came together, and how he targeted these different guys out of the transfer portal. He was able to develop certain guys like Chase Shores. How he developed during the course of the season. It worked out, and he's got Nate Yeskie with him. And I can't argue when Jay Johnson says he's the best pitching coach in the country.
Yeah.
You go with a College World Series with 4 different programs. Who else has that on their resume, as Jay would say?
And the fact that this was the first year that Jay had the same pitching coach for 2 years in a row here at LSU, I think that was a big factor. Not just that it was Nate Yeskie, but just that he had the same one for 2 years, I think was big too.
All right, let's take a break. We'll wrap up hour number 1 when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. Cade Anderson and the develop of him this season, really, and just another sign of why I think this has been such a masterful job in coaching and developing. It's one thing to get the talent, right? But it's the other thing about developing them. One of the big marks, I guess, during the Les Miles era for football, and I know it's sometimes hard when you're comparing baseball and football was, boy, Les Miles would get these top 5 recruiting classes, but he can never develop them, especially at the quarterback position, correct?
Right.
But to see these guys develop, I mean, even a guy like Tanner Reeves, how shaky he was at third base, but by the end of the year, he had to make a couple of tough plays, even in that regional. You could tell he was a better player. Michael Braswell last year got off to such a rough start at shortstop and got better and was a really good defensive third baseman. And then figuring out, forget the platoon situation. I need Michael Braswell out there defensively. I mean, a lot of these decisions, and we sit here during the regular season and harp on these variety of things that happen and why they bunted in the 5th inning and all this kind of stuff. But in the big picture, when it came down to making all the right decisions and getting all the right guys in the right places, like Chase Shores being an electric reliever out of the bullpen, it all came together so beautifully.
Well, and I was thinking about a couple of things as you were talking. I was just remembering.
I know, I was just throwing a lot of stuff out there.
It's good. It's good because during the season, one of our big concerns, and we talked about it, this team had a tendency to go into I don't even want to call it a slump, but they would cool off tremendously offensively. But they worked it out and they developed, and he taught them how to not just be disciplined hitters and take disciplined at bats that really tortured the pitching for the other team. And you had other coaches like Dave Van Horn. You had the Coastal Carolina coach, Schnall, saying that the LSU is just torturous to pitch against, and that's development. To your point, that through the season you can see it happening. The reason Dickinson was bunting so much lately was because he had a broken hamate.
Right.
Bone,
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's ever had one of those. Obviously, that's the same
injury as Warren Morris.
Yes, Warren Morris had in 1996, and he couldn't hit all year long. That was his first hit of the season.
First home run.
Yeah, first home run of the season. But he had been bunting mostly before, and that's what Dickinson was doing since the Little Rock game where he hit 2 home runs. So that was the first game of the Little Rock series.
Yeah,
the Baton Rouge Regional that he broke that bone. It's extremely painful. The point is, this team had character and grit, and they did buy into not just Jay's commitment to LSU baseball, but they bought into their commitment to one another.
Yeah,
and doing what was best for the team, and you saw that, and that's how they were able to just be so resilient and come back time and time again when they got knocked. UCLA went up 1-0 in that game in Omaha, and they had been 33-1 in games where they had taken the lead at first. And LSU just treated it like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And they did that over and over and over again.
All right, we'll take a break. Hour number 2 of Tiger Rag Radio when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glen Guilbeau.
They're players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Been a good show so far. Ryan Theriot, Jay Johnson joined us in hour number 1, and we'll have Glen West from 247 Sports. We'll talk more with him about what the 2026 roster will look like Of course, Wednesday night is the championship celebration. Should be a lot of fun over at Alec Box Stadium. They'll have a big fireworks show. They're already working on adding to the Intimidator. And also coming up this weekend, it's the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies and some important figures from LSU's past, including some coach who was here for just a few years, kind of got things going again for football. He's going into the Hall of Fame, and one of the best people to talk to about that is Doug Ireland with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Doug, thanks for coming on the show in short notice as he joins us on the Max Home Hotline. How you doing tonight, Doug? Are you running around with your head cut off, getting ready for a big weekend there in Natchitoches?
Well, let's just say that I'm kind of like a short reliever with limited warm-up time, but by gosh, you got to get in a game and go. And
you got hot quickly, huh? In the bullpen on a night like tonight, it doesn't take you long to warm up, probably, right? On a warm night like tonight.
No. Next Tuesday night, man, it'll be a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, Doug, this is Todd Horne. How are you?
Hey, Todd, doing great. Tickled to be on the show with you guys.
Well, I'm going to leave most of this discussion to you and Jeff, but I did have to ask you one question, and that is with Nick Saban coming on. I know you guys have been after him to join the ceremonies for a long time. Can you sort of tell our listeners that story? Because obviously everybody knows who Nick Saban is, and why is it so important for him to actually be there this year?
Well, Nick was elected in August of 19 for the 2020 class, and obviously not much happened in 2020 after March. Our ceremonies are traditionally the month of June, and
hey, Doug, could we try to call you back again? The cell's not a good connection, or unless you're maybe in an area where the cell reception's not that great.
I know not to criticize my phone carrier, but AT&T is.
All right, so let's see. Doug's gonna. But yes, Nick Saban is highlighting the Hall of Fame induction class, along with former LSU great Andrew Whitworth and several other individuals associated with LSU, including April Burkholder, who was an outstanding gymnast for.
related.
Are you still there, Doug?
Right. Yeah, and we've got an electrical back in the neighborhood here, big.
All right.
That may be having more to do with anything.
Okay, I think we're hearing you well now. So go ahead. So in 2020, Nick Saban was supposed to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, correct?
Right. Nick was to be inducted in 2020. We didn't have a 2020 ceremony in 2020. Then what happened was the NCAA recruiting calendar changed radically, and home visits, or rather campus visits, happened for the early signing period in June. Every weekend, Bebe Ogeron was hosting athletes on the LSU campus. Nick Saban was hosting them on the Alabama campus. And as Nick's fabulous secretary, Linda Leone, said to me one day, Doug, you just got to understand, for Nick, recruiting comes above grandkids. And and sure, it does. I mean, he's that competitive. And I'm sure it did for Bebe too. I mean, for any other coach who was going to, contend for a national championship, and so he just could not get away from Tuscaloosa on a weekend. We looked at a few alternate dates, but an active, high-level Division I coach there's not a whole lot of free weekends.
Yeah.
And so he finally said, "Well, why don't you guys wait until I retire?" And we said, well, heck, when's that going to be? You just signed a contract renewal. So lo and behold, February 24, all of a sudden there's the announcement from on high. And literally that day I reached out and I talked to Linda. And Linda may be the greatest secretary of all, other than those who are in the 225 area code. She's tremendous. And I said, what I'm reaching out about? He said when he retired. And she said, well, you're going to have to deal with somebody else. I retired too. And I said, Linda, say it ain't so, but I do need to know one thing. who retired first? Because if you did, I understand why Nick retired.
That's true. That's a good point.
But she said Nick beat her to it this one time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we really introduced this idea, but then an entirely different dynamic began to occur. One, he got involved with ESPN and a lot of other things, so quickly picked up some other obligations. And two, for the first time in 52 years, the Saban schedule did not revolve around Nick on the weekends when there wasn't football being played. It revolved around Miss Terry and those grandkids and other things that they wanted to do that they never had a chance to do. And so they've really kind of been in a new world. And Nick doesn't have an operations guy, telling him, okay, coach, at 10:30, you're going to get this call. At 10:35, Johnny Jones is going to walk in and want to talk to you about his scholarship. 10:43, then that's not happening anymore. Nick's managing his own schedule. He's got a couple of people who are helping him, and Terry's. It's just a whole different world, something they've never experienced before. But he is excited about this, and he's been appreciative of it since the start, because he will tell you, and he's been quoted numerous times. In the grand scheme of things, he wished he'd never left LSU. Pro football did not work out for him, and when he was looking for a job, the best job available was Alabama. So he took the best job available, and then his job was to beat LSU. So he still has a great pride in the LSU program. He has a great love for a lot of people at and around LSU and his players, and is very appreciative of what, as he says, what Louisiana did for me.
Now, Doug, he along with the rest of the inductees are going to be speaking. But is my understanding the induction ceremony is actually sold out right now? Is that correct?
It's not quite sold out, and the reason why, we had a little creativity in our seating arrangement in the Naggers Event Center that created an extra 70 seats, and we've got about 24 still left. We'll have 900 people in the room Saturday night. That'll be a record.
Wow!
And a live audience on Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
That's great.
For the first time we've had a lot of television coverage, tape delayed, and that sort of thing in previous years, but we've never had live over-the-air TV. LPB is stepping up in its sports coverage all over, but particularly with us, we are thrilled for that platform.
That's great. Yeah.
What time is that on Saturday night?
Yeah, the ceremony coverage on LPB kicks off at 7. They go for 2.5 hours. There's an hour show before the Purple Carpet Special that'll be streamed on lpb.org and the lasportshall.com and our YouTube channels. And that's basically kind of like a pre-show of the ceremony. When the inductees get in, they get interviewed, and past inductees, and Burt Jones, for example, is coming. Burt's always great to visit. We have so many good, well-known and beloved figures from our past induction classes. It always makes it special.
Andrew Whitworth, of course, one of the best offensive linemen the state of Louisiana has ever produced. He might be the best, to be honest with you. It's hard to say. You got Mawai and Faneca. That's true. I shouldn't say that, but one of the best. I'll go back to what I read.
Oh, they're on any short list. Any short list, those guys are on it. Yeah.
How about best tackle? Maybe best tackle. You go in that direction, but
Will Rofe grew up in Arkansas, but played at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But this guy,
a damn good one. Okay.
Yes, but what this guy, he was all class at LSU. Big part of.
Hadn't changed a lick.
Yeah, and was just a great player for the Bengals. Got the Super Bowl ring with the Rams. He is just a country boy from Northeast Louisiana, and he's never forgotten his roots. And I think he still lives in the LA area, but just a tremendous guy and a heck of a football player. And the next Hall of Fame after he's enshrined this weekend should be the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Well, that'll be an interesting question for those folks to decide. But there is no question that Andrew played for, a middle of the road NFL team and franchising the Bengals for years. They had some good years, never a great year.
Yeah.
And then he got in with the Rams, and his last game, they won the Super Bowl. And
Right.
he's the oldest starting tackle in the Super Bowl ever. And 3 nights before, he won the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award for community activism. And it just, what a fabulous end to his playing days. And then he has springboarded into, he's really a media sensation with Amazon Prime's Thursday Night Football, his partnership with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have their own podcast every Tuesday. They're all over the place doing things. Andrew is a smart, hot commodity who is, leveraging all that to help people. He was just in Hawaii and did a lot of charitable work while he and his family were in Hawaii. He's a remarkable guy. He and his wife, Melissa, are very special people. And, you love celebrating somebody like that. And when you look at what the guy did as a player, 2 national high school championship teams at West Monroe High School, 3 state championship teams, a national championship team, 2 SEC championship teams at LSU, and then, Super Bowl champion and a wonderful 16-year NFL career. It is hard to top that. There's no question.
April Burkholder, former LSU gymnast, is going into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Obviously, the LSU gymnastics program is nearly at the top of the mountain. It is at the top of the mountain. Won the national championship a year ago. But before this great run of gymnasts that LSU's been able to attract, April was kind of the first where it kind of opened up the era of what we're seeing now. She was a gymnast from California, if I'm correct. San Diego.
No, Houston area.
Houston area. Okay, Houston area. I'm sorry. I don't know why I got California, but from the Houston area. That's right, Houston area. And then was really one. She was dominant in her time there at LSU.
From the start. I mean, she was a tremendous competitor as a freshman. She was arguably the top recruit in the country. Dee Bro did a fabulous job of being patient because April, coming out of high school, did not have the academics to accept a scholarship. And the reason was she was so focused on her gymnastics. Her world revolved around training, and she had several different high schools. And she'll tell you she made some terrible mistakes, and she'd go to school for 4 hours a day, and she just did not get done what she needed to get done. So she couldn't accept a scholarship. Dee stayed with her, and she told us that she made the recruiting visits to Oklahoma, Utah, and was about to go to Georgia, where Jay Clark was the assistant coach then. And Jay asked her, said, "Look, you sound like you really like LSU. Now, I don't want to waste a recruiting visit on somebody that's just coming here for the experience. If we got a chance to get you, I want you here. But if you're going to go to LSU, then you need to go on and go to LSU." And she went on to LSU. Yeah. And right away, and Dee put it very well. Dee was in our selection committee meeting last August. We have 2 Hall of Famers each year who are part of the final selection process, and it was in Baton Rouge, and Dee was one of the 2 who we had in the room with us. And when April came up for discussion, she said, "Y'all, we just inducted Simone Augustus, and you heard about how Simone transformed interest in women's basketball at LSU. Well, that was what April Burkholder did for gymnastics. We were drawn okay. We had good crowds. But when April came in, she caught the imagination. She led the charge, and people started turning out in droves. And LSU gymnastics had never been the same since. And she had a fabulous 4 years at LSU, delightful person, and was a junior Olympic champion. Just her life cycle didn't line up with the Olympic Games, and that didn't pan out for her. But she's led a very happy life. She's just married in 2020. She's got a 13-month-old baby girl, and they are happy as they can be, and they are so excited they'll be in here tomorrow night from Houston.
Doug, can you hold on for one more short segment?
Absolutely. Look, I'm short. I can hold on. Yeah.
Very good. The great Doug Ireland. We got to ask you how the heck Glen Guilbeau got in this Hall of Fame. And have you reconsidered that decision? We'll get to that when we come back here on
Tiger. Criticized for it roundly.
We'll get to that when we come back here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Tracks.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Hey, we're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine as we're inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Joining us kindly for another segment, it's Doug Ireland with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies this weekend. You can watch it on Louisiana Public Broadcasting on Saturday night. We talked about some of the athletes that are going in. Also some other individuals as well that have really contributed to the sports landscape in the state of Louisiana, including our own Glen Guilbeau, who is getting in. And Glenn has been covering sports in Louisiana for, since the 1990s, right?
Or
80s, really, yeah.
Early
1980s.
80s. Yeah, 1983, I believe it was.
You there, Doug? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I worked with him at the Town Talk in Alexandria for a while, and then moved to Northwestern as the SID, and he covered us, and we had a lot of fun. Guilbeau, but Guilbeau's a hell of a reporter.
Yeah.
People get upset with him on his opinions, on his columns, but when it comes to reporting and storytelling, I mean, he's a national award-winning journalist, and yeah, he's going to take a stand on things. He is not going to be the cheerleader guy for the school that he's covering. He's going to say what he thinks, and he has great admiration among his peers, not only in Louisiana but around the country. And when you've won awards from the Associated Press Sports Editors Association, you've won awards from the Football Writers of America, you've won awards from the U.S. Basketball Writers. I mean, you're a legitimate star in sports journalism, and that's Glen Guilbeau. And we love to make fun of our boy and laugh with him. And groan at him sometimes, but by gosh, he epitomizes what a sports writer and a sports columnist should be.
Hey, Doug, I completely agree with you. I've known him for over 40 years. He used to sleep on my couch when he was covering LSU from Alexandria. But when you worked with him, did you ever happen to bump heads with him and notice how hard his head is?
I knew how thick his skull was. I never really bumped heads physically. The boy, he's got a thick skull. He's stubborn as a mule, but just a heart of gold too. And I just have so much admiration for him. The best thing he ever did was somehow get Michelle to marry him.
Yes. Wanted to ask you before we get out of here, or have to let you go, Doug. There's also a lot of admiration for Ed Daniels, who unfortunately we lost last year, and he will be inducted, correct, into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and what's really unfortunate is he was so close to election last year. He was right there, and it didn't happen, and we knew it would happen this year, and all of a sudden we lost him. And there wasn't any doubt really after last year that he was going to get elected. We didn't tell anybody that, because what we do in our elections is private and quiet, and but I think there was an understanding that Ed was going to go in this next year, and then what happened? You'd say, well, it's not. Ed's career goes past sports journalism with his impact in Louisiana, and particularly in the New Orleans and region. But what a man! And I covered, Mawai and Ed Reed and Mr. Johnny Robinson were inducted, all Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame members, in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2019, the year that I retired from Northwestern. It was the first time I had a chance to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and dadgummit, with 3 of the 8 being our guys, I was going to be there. And sure enough, I walk into the media opportunity on Friday, and there's Ed Daniels.
Yeah, right.
Just and couldn't have been more charming and collegial, and I know how widely respected he was and will always be. So that's great. Of course, then there's another LSU guy going in with Herb Vincent.
Yep, right. Well, we're all out of time. Don't mean to cut you off with Herb Vincent, but he's also.
Well, I'll tell him you did that, though. You're going to get suspended. Sankey's going to be on your butt, man.
Yeah. He's a class act too. A great person
really
that's
is.
going into the Sports Hall of Fame. Good luck this
Love
weekend,
LSU.
Doug.
Can't tell you that.
Again, thanks for coming on, and obviously in a short basis here, or really quick turnaround. But appreciate your
Pleasure
time.
and privilege, man.
All right,
Loved it.
that's Doug Ireland with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We'll take a break. Glen West from 247 Sports will join us.
June is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Take part in the Summer Reading Challenge with incentives for kids, teens, and adults. They also have events galore for all ages, like Movies on the Plaza, the Cool Careers Summer Series, and so much more. Check out details online at ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me. Home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
We love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Jeff Palermo back inside the Super Chevy Dealers studio. Earlier today, I had a chance to talk with Glen West with 247 Sports about what that 2026 LSU baseball team might look like as they will try to repeat as national champs. Talking with Glen West of 247 Sports, and Glen, celebration is well underway for the 2025 LSU baseball national champions, but we're already looking ahead to 2026 here. And based on who's coming back, it looks like it's a good core of players, and it puts LSU in position to really make another run at this thing again. Do you agree with that assessment?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, you're going to lose a good bit of veterans to the draft this year. You might lose a couple freshmen, but when you can start with a base of, we can start on the pitcher side, really, Kason Evans, Cooper Williams, William Schmidt, Maverick Rizzi. We'll see kind of what happens with Zach Cowan. I think LSU could maybe convince him to stay, but if you get him back into the fold, you have Devin Sheeran, who's going to be coming back off of injury. He's a hard-throwing righty that we haven't been able to see yet, but throws 98, 99 miles an hour, so he's going to be an absolute fixture into this thing as well. And then on the position player side, you've got Stephen Milam coming back as your core, Derek Curiel, Cade Aaron Beatty, Jake Brown. There's a couple of guys that I think maybe you can convince to get back instead of going to the draft or the portal, but those will be conversations that I'm sure Jay Johnson is already having with those players and already knows kind of what they're thinking. So I think that they're set up really well from a foundation standpoint, and that's something that Jay talked about a couple weeks ago. When the portal first opened, we kind of asked him that, like, what do you envision kind of the portal process being for you guys this year? And he said they're going to be extremely picky because I do think that they feel like they have a good foundational core that's going to be returning on this 2026 roster.
Probably the biggest changes that are going to occur is the infield's going to look different. Other than Stephen Milam at shortstop, everywhere else it's going to be new players.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've gone in and they've actually grabbed a couple of infielders out of the portal already. Their names are escaping me right now, but you're going to have Milam in there. You're going to have a couple of transfer portal players in here, and honestly, the freshman class that they have coming in, a lot of these guys are kind of in that 50 to 100 range of the top, kind of 150 prospects, and so and a couple of them are infielders, and so if LSU is able to maybe convince a couple of those freshmen to stick around and come to school. That's another group of players that you can add to that mix on the infield. John Pearson's another guy that I think makes a lot of sense as a second-year player, a guy who got some opportunities as a freshman to really swing the bat, but we haven't really seen in the field yet. I would imagine he competes for playing time at first and third. And then you've got Eddie Yaman, who's a catcher / first baseman, took a redshirt year this season. They think he's got some real good power ability with his bat as well. So they're going to be losing Jones, Dickinson, and certainly Braswell. Maybe they can get Tanner Reeves back too at third base. That might be something that they're able to talk him into. But they have options there in the infield. It's just going to be it's going to look a little bit differently though this time next year for sure.
The outfield looks really crowded again, doesn't it, Glenn?
Yeah, no, the outfield does, but I think, look, you got a core of Derek Curiel and Jake Brown coming back for sure, and then it's just kind of about what happens after that. I mean, they have, again, a couple of outfielders that are in this freshman class that I think they really feel good about. They have Chris Stanfield, who is obviously one of the heroes of Omaha, and certainly this season with the way he played as a transfer. We'll see kind of with him. If you had to ask me now, I would probably guess that he goes to the draft, but I also think that there's some room maybe to convince him to come back. Ethan Fry is another guy that fits into that mold as well. He's somebody that's played some outfield in his career. If he doesn't decide to go to the draft, he's somebody that I think could return and give LSU some really good, obviously veteran leadership and swing, bat ability, and then you get to see him in the field a little bit more next year too, which could increase his value a little bit. So I think there's cases to be made for both of those guys, but I think outside of Curiel and Brown, there's a little bit more just kind of up in the air about what happens with the outfield next year.
As far as the weekend rotation, it probably starts with Case and Evans, correct? And then you go from there, and then you got Nate Yeske. One of his big projects next season will be getting William Schmidt right, and then there's a bunch of guys, Devin Sheeran, Jaden Newt, Cooper Williams.
Sure.
I'm not sure what they're thinking as far as Maverick Rizzi. Is he a bullpen guy or a starter? But again, plenty of options there as far as guys that can potentially start next season.
Yeah, I would probably bet good money that you could write Case and Evans' name in Sharpie on Friday night next year for the opener. I don't think there's any way that he doesn't start for LSU next year, barring some kind of tragic off-season injury. But I think he's certainly going to be the guy for LSU next year that they lean on in that ace role. William Schmidt, you're absolutely right. I think he's going to be probably one of the biggest X factors on the roster next year in terms of what kind of jump he can make from his freshman to sophomore season. Started his freshman year off pretty good in the non-conference play. He had some really solid outings, but the confidence of the command and the control there really got out, kind of got away from him as his season went along. And so you're right, that's going to be a big part of Nate Yeske's job this offseason is to get the most out of William Schmidt that they can. But I think that Devin Sheeran's going to be a guy that certainly can compete for a starting role. You mentioned Jaden Newt. If they get him back, I think that's somebody that certainly could compete for a starting role as well. So they have some good pieces really at every position on the roster right now. It's just a lot of just how does it all, wiggle or, factor out when they get into the fall and certainly into the spring of next year. But like I said, Jay Johnson feels really good about this foundation that he's got coming back, and they have the core pieces in play. If they can kind of, make some adjustments and some improvements around the edges in the outfield, at catcher, and the infield, whatever they feel necessary, maybe another left-handed pitcher or two that they get from the portal or this freshman class. I think LSU feels really good about what their guys are that they're returning, and what kind of group they have in 2026.
There's three guys that were major parts of this 2025 team that I think have interesting decisions to make when it comes to, do I come back another year or do I go in the draft? And I don't know, three guys that pop in my mind are Zach Cowan, Chris Stanfield, and Ethan Fry. Is that kind of the list that you would look at too, Glenn? And
yeah, I think that's probably the three that I'm looking hard at. If they can get two of those guys back, I think that's a huge win for the program. But I think those three are the ones that, you kind of, when you look at things, I guess maybe Tanner Reeves would be another one. Another guy who's played solid third base for you, and maybe a second year in the program, he can continue to grow his game within the program as well. But yeah, Stanfield, Fry, and then Cowan. I think Cowan could be one of those guys that really, whether it's a Saturday night role or Sunday night role, he's somebody that I think could factor into the weekend as a starter for this team next year. And if they're able to get him back, and if not, we've seen exactly what he can do from a bullpen perspective as well. So if they can convince Cowan or Stanfield or Fry to come back and play another year, I think that just adds more fuel to what's already a pretty burning fire here in terms of returning pieces for next year.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Glen West from 247 Sports. More of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio when we come back on Tiger Rag Radio.
Tiger Rag Radio.
The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, as we are broadcasting from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. LSU baseball winning a 8th national championship in program history. What was your favorite moment of the College World Series, Todd?
Watching Arkansas cry.
Wow, is that rough?
I mean, I know there's a lot of respect between Jay and Dave Van Horn and between the players and the program. And, you know, it was a great thing whenever Aloy won the Golden Spikes Award and you saw Jay Johnson and the rest of the LSU team go over and congratulate him. That was wonderful sportsmanship, showed their true respect. But I just loved watching them cry because I love beating them almost as much as I love watching LSU beat Tennessee. Which, by the way, if you're heavy into social media, especially on X or Twitter, whatever it's called, there's a lot of Tennessee fans talking about how Tony Vitello is clearly the number one coach in college baseball right now, and those guys that are saying that have to be like stoned or insane or something.
I think he's right up there. I still think he's in the top 3.
You know, you look at what Jay did by winning 2 in 3 years, 2 in his first 4 years. And you look at the records of the programs, they don't compare. Now, I'm not saying that Tony is not a good coach. I'm not saying he's not competitive.
You have to look at where Tennessee was.
Yeah, I agreed. I agree with all that, but they've got a long way to go to catch up. And Jay Johnson is widening the gap right now. Now, that may be different next year.
Right.
We may have a totally different discussion next year, but as it stands right now, there's very little comparison in my mind.
I want to say they're the last 2 national championship teams.
I agree with that.
And the year before, and Tennessee has been, the last 4 years has been really, really good.
In the last 4 years, LSU has 2 national championships. Tennessee has 1 all time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's a Grand Canyon gap between the 2 programs.
I'm going to show you a chart.
Which is great radio if you're going to show me a chart.
Well, I know. We don't have cameras in here yet, but I'm going to show you a chart, and I want to see your reaction when I find it. Keep talking.
All right. Well, I'm just saying that they are a threat. They next year and I haven't looked at the projections of who's going to be in the College World Series next year, but LSU and Tennessee, in my mind, as long as Tony Vitello is there, they will always be a threat to win it, just like LSU. Would I rather have Jay Johnson as my head coach over Tony Vitello? Yes. But you have to get, whether you like the man or not. All right, what are we looking at? Okay, you're showing me the program history from 1980 to now. Tony Vitello is not responsible for what happened in 2005.
Look at it closely, and concentrate on your recent years.
Well, but
look at it.
It took a long way to get them to where they're at. I'm also looking at
Tennessee's a pimple on LSU's rear end.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think they will be a problem for LSU every single year. They will be. They will be in contention.
When it has mattered over the last 4 years, 3 years for sure, LSU has taken it to them every time. Whether we're talking about in Omaha, whether we're talking about in regular season.
But they're still a championship caliber program.
I'm not saying they're not.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
But I'm saying
you're dismissing them
LSU is the face of college baseball right now. Tennessee's that pimple.
See, I just think it's not that wide. I think it's. I think LSU is.
Could be a little harsh.
Yeah, I think LSU is by far they are the better program.
Arkansas's in between them.
I don't know, man. I think I've had enough of Arkansas crumbling. That there is something there's something there with them that is they crumble, Todd.
Are we talking about the curse again?
No, they just
the Cubs expert.
No, well, they just crumble. They absolutely crumble. What were they? The number 1 seed last year, right? No, Tennessee was, right? But Arkansas didn't even make it out of the regional last year.
Right. They lost at home. They lost in their regional at home.
They lost, yeah. And then there's something there. And LSU is the more. This is what I saw in the games between LSU and Arkansas in Omaha. And really, you could say over the 5 games that the two teams played. And I do give credit to Arkansas for coming back and winning that game on Sunday in the regular season. I know that was a one regular season game. Nobody will remember it, but that was a nice win for them. But I think overall, and even the extra inning win on Friday night for LSU over Arkansas, LSU is the more mentally tougher team.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that mental toughness starts with your head coach.
I agree with that 100%.
And so there is something there with Dave Van Horne where it's not trickling to the players.
You know, one of the edges, and I think this speaks to exactly what you're talking about, Anthony Ianson in the post-game press conference after they won the championship is talking about Jay Johnson. And one of the reporters asked a question. I don't remember exactly what the question was. And he says, he tells us ahead of time by player what their contribution is going to be in the game and what's going to happen. He tells us ahead of time.
Yeah.
And he said it always happens. That's part of that toughness.
Well, that and, that's another great quality about Jay Johnson is just the communication level. The communication level that he has for these guys and what he anticipates from them. And I think a guy like Dalton Beck, he probably told him early on, Dalton, you're not going to play here.
But he wanted to play anyway.
But he told him early on, it wasn't like, maybe you might get a chance to play. And then all of a sudden Dalton is sitting there in April saying, well, how come I'm not playing, coach?
Right.
But because he addresses the situation so early on, there is no disconnect. There's no disconnect content with what's going on with the team.
There's no misunderstanding.
Exactly. And that's why everybody's buying in to what he's selling. So we'll take a break. We'll wrap up the show when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
And we're back with Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
All right, good show here tonight. Got to thank Jay Johnson. Got to thank Ryan Theriot. He was a lot of fun to have on the show. We had Doug Ireland on, Glen West. As we wrap it up, look back at the 2025 season. Quite a year for this LSU baseball team that ended up finishing 4th in the SEC, but that doesn't really matter. It's, as Jay Johnson says, when it's tournament time, it's our time, and it's a good way of looking at it. And I think a lot of people are excited to see what he's able to do in the transfer portal. It's not going to be a huge haul, but he's going to be very selective in who he gets. And I guess just some final thoughts on this 2025 season. It was interesting. By the way, it was the most watched Game 2 of the College World Series.
2.5 million viewers.
It was less. I don't understand this. I still haven't put the math. Like overall, though, the A&M Tennessee series last year was higher. And I know they played an extra game, but like it was higher average. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and I think the whole field was not as high as it had been.
Well,
look at
you were missing out on some
big names.
Yeah, and you get A&M, huge population, huge alumni base, college baseball, Tennessee, pretty good size population-wise. That's going to play into it as well. You also, on Saturday night, you have the United States taking out nuclear sites in Iran.
Right. World War III.
Yeah. All right, take it easy. Remember who the next president of LSU will be.
Right.
Listen back to the Ryan Theriot interview for why that inside joke plays. But Sunday, when LSU comes out there, they're wearing their gold jerseys. What did you think about that?
What happened to the pinstripes, right? I think
that's what Ianson was supposed to be wearing, right? That's what he was. That was the video of what Jay Johnson was sending him.
That's the only time this season we saw, I think, Ianson pitch in a gold jersey.
Yeah.
I think that was supreme confidence. Gold jerseys are championship Sunday jerseys,
right,
for LSU, and he just said, "Yeah, I don't want to be playing on Monday."
Yeah,
which would have been Game 3. So let's just do it now.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I think a lot of people are ecstatic. A lot of people would say that what Skip Bertman did in the '90s would never be replicated. Well, we're going to find out. I think we're going to get an idea of whether he can win 5 in 10 years or whatever it might be. I don't know, but 2 for 4 is not too bad.
2 for 4 is not a bad start, and he's only 48 years old.
Right. And this is his dream job.
He says he coached this team for 30 years.
Yeah, he's not. The Houston Astros aren't calling him up tomorrow, and he's jumping ship.
Zero interest in that. And I don't see another college team ever pull him away.
Yeah,
but you never know. Trump becomes president of LSU, brings in Jeff Landry as athletic director.
All right, on that note,
Omar the Tiger replaces Mike.
Let's just shut it down right there. All right, for Jackson Blackman, Todd Horne, I'm Jeff Palermo. Thanks for listening to Tiger Rag Radio.